Hello and
Hello.
back to Vape Live, Voxpo Vape Live. I hope you're having a great time here today. I'm Patrick Griffin. I am the editor of Vapouround magazine. This is Jordan 50 Millar, who is my right-hand man at the magazine. And we are so happy to be joined by Maria P from Rights for Vapers. Maria, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you, Patrick and Jordan 50 for having me here today. Everybody calls me Maria P. My last name is Papaioannoy, which is a mouthful. I always say I've got all these letters at the end of my name. Too bad none of them spell out MD, so I can have my voice respected a little bit more by the regulators in Canada. Thank you for having me here.
I don't know whether you know this, but earlier on today, I was doing another interview with somebody, and we were gossiping about you. We were talking about you.
Who are you talking about me with?
Oh, I don't think you know him very well. What was his name? Michael someone.
Yeah, Michael.
Oh, Michael Len. I can't say his last name either. Too many consonants.
So yeah, obviously sort of Michael was talking to us about his campaigns and what his organization is doing, specifically with what was happening in Europe. And then I asked him about the recent World Vape Day, where he did that marathon session, and that was where I first came across you and you speaking passionately about Canada. And we both said to each other, we're going to have to get Maria on our show here, and here you are. Now, at that time, there was a lot happening in Canada. I don't know whether it's still a good time to talk to you, because things have quietened down a lot there now. There isn't really very much going on, is there? Or am I wrong about that?
I think you're being sarcastic.
This is what we do. So basically, we know there is so much happening. We've got a lot to get through. Maybe first of all, just to sort of to paint the picture to people who don't know who you are, if you could talk a little bit about yourself, how you got into an advocate, and what Rights for Vapers are all about.
Okay, so again, my name is Maria. I was a smoker from the time I was 14 years old, and I can actually tell you the time, the date, the feeling of how my first cigarette was. I was hooked from day one. I guess from the first day I started smoking, I made a commitment to quit smoking. That took almost 30 years and a lot of tries, a lot of mishaps, a lot of I'm just going to say unsafe pharmaceutical products that brought out probably the lows in me. And my mother-in-law she came up to us and said, and she was like, well, and almost 70. And she said, I'm going out to buy you this thing called an electronic cigarette. And that was in 2010. And we went and we bought this little Cigalite thing. It was about this big, and we bought those cartridges, and I was able to quit smoking for in the first time in my life. It evolved. We started getting into refillables. And again, in 2010, there was really not that much that you can find in Canada. And we were having so much success. We decided to open up a store to share about this product. At that point, Canada was in a gray market. And I hate saying that, but we weren't regulated. We weren't unregulated. They didn't know what to do with us. We made a decision to be able to show the product, test the product. And I just fell in love. And maybe it's like, I just fell in love with helping people quit smoking. I fell in love with the ability to connect with people who have been marginalized, just like me, for decades, and feel guilty for smoking and feel guilty for wanting to have a little bit of rights that are equal to other people. And I remember how I got into advocacy. In 2014, the city of Toronto proposed to make a vaping ban, not a smoking ban, a vaping ban. And no, you wouldn't be allowed to vape on any city-owned properties, which included the beach where employees would work. So that included places like the beach, City Hall, but you were still allowed to smoke in those places at the time. They didn't do anything about smoking. And I felt so blindsided about this regulation coming in that I decided I'm never going to feel like that again. I may own a business, but I'm also a consumer. And by owning that business in such a disruptive technology that people rely on to give them quality of life, I will never be in that position where I'm going blindsided again. And since then, I've organized rallies in the province of Ontario, up to 700 people in the freezing Ontario cold. And let me tell you, when that wind brushes through you, it's friggin' cold. We've organized those and more on a provincial, so that's like a smaller level. And the upcoming flavor ban, like in the looming regulations that we've seen, like, and they inched their way to this flavor ban, and then EVALI, and like, the narrative changing that we are bad people and we are being duped and vaping is just as harmful, and that messaging really fired it up. And I joined with Rights for Vapers, who were doing a survey at the time on flavors and how important flavors were to Canadians to keep them smoke free. And it just evolved. It's not an organization, it's a movement. And what's really important to understand is a movement moves with the people. We are not tied to a board of directors to worry about things. We concern ourselves with the voices of consumers. We believe in access, we believe in choice, and we believe in consumer-led change. And only that way. And the best thing that I could do as someone in my position is build platforms, share the information of those platforms, and empower people to use their voice, because education creates empowerment, which helps people engage in change. And that's like, I totally 100% believe that. I think any movement, that's all that's happened, is education first, empowerment second, and that gives you the courage. Because you can't speak up on something if you don't have the courage. Your voice, to elevate your voice, you need to know that people believe in you, you have the tools, you have the knowledge to make change. So I believe that the crucial role of people like me, who not only are consumers but own vape shops, is to build platforms and communicate what is going on to their customers and the consumers and everybody, so they can make the choice to use their voice. So that's where Rights for Vapers, and it evolves. People believe in it. We have a great, like we did World Vape Day, because I thought, when I saw it in 2020, I was like, dang, we need to be part of this. So I teamed up with one of our broadcasters out here, and I said, let's do a 3-hour day. I knew what we were up against, and I think we pulled off the 3-hour Canadian North American coverage great. I did a show called Between Two Vapes, all about engaging and empowering consumers, because that was the point, is that you need to know what's going on. You need to know what is happening, and you need access to the information from these experts out there who are fighting alongside all of us to save this industry. And it's not, sorry, I said the wrong word, is to save quality of life, is to protect human right. And as a former smoker, I should not have secondary rights. My Charter of Rights and Freedoms should be equally used for my benefit as it is for someone who has never been addicted to smoking. And what we're seeing in Canada now is a complete disqualification, a complete demoralization, a complete let's throw smokers out in the trash, we don't care kind of attitude. It's absolutely disgusting, and we need to hold our bureaucrats to hold them accountable.
Exactly. So first of all, like a broad question, why do you think so many governments in the world, or people with the power to make decisions about sort of vaping and people's health, are so much against this? Why is there such a passion of like, you guys are evil and the things you're doing are evil and you must stop, when all the evidence says it's saving lives, it's stopping people smoking, and smoking is the most dangerous thing you can do if you want to get nicotine? I don't see the logic in that, but there's a massive movement. And why do you think that's the case?
So again, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So again, I'm using some of these terms, I'm going to say loosely. I think you have to look at who these people are that are pushing these changes. So we do know it's the old guard of tobacco control. It is a dying generation, for a lack of a better term. They spent their 20s and their 30s and their 40s and their 50s fighting against smoking, and we're completely losing. Yet all of a sudden, a new technology showed up, an innovation, a disruptor in the norm. So this product did not only disrupt, let's be clear, it did not just disrupt the tobacco industry, it disrupted tobacco, pharma, public health, tobacco control. So you're looking at disrupting a group of organizations, businesses that are based on ego. They truly believe, and I don't believe they're out there, they think they're doing people harm. In their head, they feel that they're Robin Hood, because all of a sudden they were saving the poor from the rich big tobacco companies, and we're coming in to protect you. Now the face of a vaping company is this face. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not the evil tobacco company, and it's harder to fight my face than it is to change the look of my face. So make me big vape, make me an evil component of a tobacco company, because what's going to happen is it's easier to fight. Then they change the narrative, they change the way we are looked, and then they keep winning, because then they go back to the comfort of the fight they're used to, the fight against the tobacco companies. They get rid of the solution because they did not create the solution. They didn't have a hand in the solution. And it's very difficult for people, and this is again, and I say this, to accept change and evolution. It's fearful because everything they're taught has been shook into the core. Everything they had said in the 80s, you're not smoking, the nicotine's not killing you, is flying back in their faces because we found a solution. So why are they so like this? I totally believe it's ego, it's fear of change, it's imposter syndrome. They're pretending to be someone, and all of a sudden some guy in China created something and didn't make a patent. They're not used to people not holding patents for stuff. They're not used to something being controlled by the end user. This product is not created by us. We're not looking at a tobacco company that has layers and layers of all this stuff. You're looking at people who were addicted to smoking that took something that was created and continued to allow it to evolve to create something better and better and better. And they're not used to that because that shakes up their entire belief system. And then they have to come with terms. You know, I believe they're looking at this now. I'm an imposter from the time I started to now, but no, that's not the case. You're not an imposter because that is what we had. You need to be who you are. Tobacco control needs to be 2021. We can no longer deal with tobacco control in 1980. It does not work. So that's what I think is going on. Governments are pressured. They found the hook, save the children, the child. Yes, they found the hook, and that's a really easy sell. I mean, let's be very clear is that, again, these are all my opinions. I want to make that clear. I'm not a psychiatrist, but when I'm looking at it from my perspective, I am seeing this because it's human nature to not want to be wrong. What they're not realizing is no one in the vaping world said they were wrong for what they did in 1980. No one's saying they were wrong for what they did in 1990, 2000, but you know what? Once you started in 2002, 2003, and today, you are wrong because you need to shift. You need to take on your role as tobacco control. Science, what is it? Your hypothesis, you're not, when you say something, you don't have to prove it. Right. You just have to support it. I don't like, that's what I'm finding is that they say a statement and their whole entire goal is to prove that statement instead of saying, this is our statement. Let's see how it holds up against the truth. The statement isn't the truth. It's the evidence that is the truth. However, they're not letting the evidence, they're making the statement the truth, not the evidence. And that's what's happening in North America.
I think that seems to be the case. And you're quite right. I mean, we could have got a psychologist or someone and asked them the same questions, what's going through someone's mind. But I think, I mean, the reason that you're here and the reason that I was speaking to Michael Landell earlier is that this is my opinion now, if we are going to have a chance of changing people's minds, changing the people that you talk about, it's going to be from them understanding that regular people, this is happening to regular people, normal people in every way, except that they found a way of getting off cigarettes that the regulators don't like, and by telling their stories. I think that's an important point. So, I mean, maybe what would be interesting for you to do, and who am I to tell you what to do in Canada? But wouldn't it be brilliant if you guys could go on some sort of a Canadian tour to explain all this, to say why Canada's plans for banning flavors is wrong. What do you think? Should Rights for Vapers go on a tour?
I feel like there's definitely some potential.
Yeah,
if you could work something like that out in the near future, even the far future. I mean, I don't know what you've got on the books.
Well, how does a 36-foot RV sound? I will say through manifestation of me writing down something in my book every single day. That helps you focus. I'm just going to say that. We are launching a tour to the Save Vaping tour, Save Flavors. You know what? Save Vaping, Save Lives. That's kind of our hashtag. We vape, we vote. We are in the midst of getting an election drop. So we are heading across 2 large provinces. Canada is a country that is really kind of 50% of the population is found in 2 provinces. In a very, like a smaller geographical region, even though we're the second largest landmass, we have a very small population and most of it is found in these 2 provinces. We are going to hit, I believe, and I might be wrong on the amount, but I think we have 26 stops in 19 days.
Wow.
We're launching with a press conference in front of our national broadcaster, who I personally believe really misrepresented and editorialized vaping opposed to reporting in a fair way. That's my opinion, based on my background in media. And I do believe starting there is very apropos, because our goal is to take back the narrative. The narrative, vaping didn't fail, government failed, public health failed. Those are the people who failed smokers, failed vapers. And that's where the failure happened without, with a stamp, with a rubber stamp of systemic exclusion of anyone in the industry to participate in conversations with tobacco control with our government. That's what's failed. So we're doing that. That's on the 20th. And then we are going to the nation's capital. We have a march. We're going to take to the streets, hold up our signs, wearing our masks, COVID safe, everybody. And we're going to march up to Parliament and demonstrate in front of the Parliament buildings, not on the property, but in front of the Parliament buildings on the street, in front of the Prime Minister's office, and really get our message out. And after that, we head up to Chicoutimi, which is probably the most fun word I've ever heard in French, Chicoutimi, Quebec, where we will be heading to vape shops. We're going to drive all the way down across Southern Ontario and hit vape shops in ridings where, ridings mean where, a riding is where a member of Parliament, where his constituents live. So it's sort of like a geographical region. And though where the seats were won by small numbers. So I know our government kind of works similar to the UK, but they may have won their seat in Parliament by like 20 votes. So we want to start engaging, having that conversation. We're inviting them out. If they don't show up, we have a full-on video crew. We're taking those videos. We are going to tweet directly to the member of Parliament the videos, and we're hoping that they start to see that we're not backing down. We will also have maybe 1 or 2 screenings of the movie You Don't Know Nicotine and invite public health officials. We're going to kind of go a little broader on that, inviting public health officials from all different places. Our goal is to get the message out. Our goal is to change the narrative, the perspective, the viewpoint. We don't want a stereotype. There should not be a stereotype on who vapes. It needs to be people need to think of me, think of you, and we all look different. We all have a different, we're all different. None of us look like the stereotype. We want to break that narrative. We need to take charge of our story, and this is the best way we can do it.
Yeah, and I would say there's no more a typical vapor as there is a typical smoker. There isn't. They're from all walks of life. That brings us very nicely. So you're having this tour to save the flavors. For people that don't know, it might be a good point to say, to explain why you need to be saving flavors in the first place, because Canada has, just as far as I'm concerned, gone totally mad with things. And I know that when you finish that, I suspect Jordan will have a couple of questions, because he working in the office every day, and when we first found out about sort of what Canada was doing with flavors, and when we read through the document, I've never been so angry. I've genuinely never. Have you seen this? Have you seen this time? So I'm sure he wants to ask you quite a bit about that. But I think the first thing is, why do you guys need to save the flavors anyway? What's going on?
So here's the thing. Okay, first of all, where we're at in this point of the proposed regulations, there's a pathway to it. So I'll just go back a little bit. The Tobacco Vaping Products Act was created, and I believe it was in 2017. They swore up and down, and we have footage of them saying, we're not here to ban the flavors. This entire thing was about banning the naming of the flavors, just promotion and stuff like that, which is fine. I understand that. Then we went into the nicotine cap. Also, they promised us relative risk statements. Technically, we still haven't gotten those. That's the only set of proposed regulations that didn't turn into regulations that Health Canada has proposed on vaping since to the Tobacco Vaping Products Act. We did have a nicotine ban that recently went into effect, which to me was heartbreaking, because I believe access and choice is probably one of the choice and customization for smokers is probably one of the reasons why vaping is so successful, because no two people smoke the cigarette the same way. No two people have the same needs for their bodies. So that nicotine strength, albeit 66 milligrams, might not be needed, but more than 20 is. but I'm not here to judge someone's need. You know, and they did all this to, you know, protect the children. What they haven't done is issued fines for selling to kids, which is the irony of it all. The punitive repercussions of selling to a minor is $3,000 on your first offense in Canada. The punitive repercussions of having a sign or saying a statement like vaping isn't smoking, because that's a health claim, is $500,000 and 18 months in a federal prison. So, like, I mean, no one's gonna, they're not gonna, like, let's be honest, like, no one's throwing anyone in prison or fining you $500,000. What I'm saying is, on paper, when you look at these regulations, they're focusing more on health claims opposed to what they say they're doing. Like, all of these are, let's remember, their motivation is we're here to protect children from the vaping industry and vaping products, because we don't want smokers, even though there's not much proof that people who kids who vape return to smoking. So here we are. Now, I do believe, I think these came back to back. We did get the nicotine ban and 20 milligrams. We had 15 days for manufacturers to remove their entire inventory in the midst of a lockdown, or as we're coming out of the lockdown here in Canada. And then the week before that, they announced a flavor ban, which would ban all flavors, would allow for mint and tobacco and flavorless. What we're not hearing in the headline is those flavors are allowed based on a list of ingredients, molecules provided by Health Canada. So it's not like, oh, you can have RY4. Does RY4 are any molecules in your RY4 not on this list? Well, you can't have it. And I do know that they're starting to research this more. And some of the findings that are coming up, and I've said this before, is that they didn't do a really good job. Some of those ingredients there are not healthy for people. They are not being used by e-liquid manufacturers. They are banned. Some of those molecules are banned in other countries. So we don't have the full report, but again, these are rumblings and things that you hear, but it is concerning. You know what? When you hear a rumor, there's a truth somewhere there. So we're going to wait to see. It's heartbreaking because people will go back to smoking. You know, even Health Canada said, I don't know, Jordan, if you read this, where they said, we're okay with people going back to smoking.
That's the one. Yeah, I remember going through the actual report, and as I started to go through it, I was like, not another flavor ban, here we go. And then as I got to the section where they basically said, yeah, well, people are going to go back to smoking, you know, the more deadly alternative to this sort of life-saving product. But we could potentially make some money on the tax. I don't know. I was absolutely disgraced when I read that. So furious.
I think the thing that hit me the most about that, because in Ontario, in the province where we're at, and most vape shops, we don't sell cigarettes. We are solely vapor products, like by law, like for me, for example. And in that regulatory, it's called a regulatory impact analysis statement, they said that I would lose all this money, but not to worry, I will recoup my losses in tobacco sales. Which is neither here or there, which kind of shows the continued systemic exclusion of this industry as an independent, like the independent, you know, Canadian vaping industry that has really made an impact and changed lives. But we are excluded, like we are just like, poof, you don't count, you don't matter. And then on the other hand, you have, and I know someone says this, and so I quote them, the body part groups, the Lung Association, who are now trying to make you believe I am big vape, I am as powerful. Well, my government says I don't even matter to even make it a report. And talking about don't matter, did you read about the postcards?
The postcards?
The post?
In that, oh, wait, sorry, guys. In there, it says a self-identified vape shop owner in Ontario.
Okay.
You know, helped organize to get over 23,000, close to 24,000 postcards sent to Health Canada saying that they were opposed to a flavor ban. Yeah. Well, what did Health Canada do? Well, when you look at the people that said, I'm opposed to a flavor ban, I support a flavor ban. Well, if we include those 24,000, it will say only 1% of Canadians support a flavor ban. Well, let's just get rid of those voices of Canadians, put them aside, disclude them just for this portion. We'll use them in another way when it's advantage of. And now 66% of Canadians support a flavor ban. It's as if the people that use their product are not important to be part of the stats. And to me, that is the most heartbreaking thing. So this is why this tour is more important than ever, because you cannot disclose a voice that is standing in front of you. You cannot marginalize a voice. You can't dismiss someone when they're holding a sign and standing in front of their government's building, the place where you are to uphold my Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You cannot disclose and dismiss my position like you did on a postcard. Here is my face. Look at it and tell me I don't matter.
I think there's I mean, clearly, anytime that I've heard you speak, you are incredibly passionate about what you say. There's no one can doubt that.
Thank you.
And I kind of sense that with everything that's happened, you and maybe a lot of other people in Canada are very angry with this. And I think that there may be something to support that. I was just looking on Twitter before I came on to do this interview. And I absolutely love your campaign, which is MP of the Day, where you, yesterday, I think it was Marcus Pulowski. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes, Pulowski. Today.
Anyone in Canada who begins with a P as a problem. And I think he's probably, I guess he must be a little bit anti-vaping, because you posted his email address and his phone number, and you said, hey, right, if you're in this constituency or this riding, get in touch with him. Tell Marcus how you feel.
Yes.
That's absolutely brilliant. I applaud that 100%.
Well, here's the thing is that's Marcus Pulowski. Yes, I think he was today.
Was he today, was he?
Is he today? Hold on a second. Oh, no, that was yesterday. He's Thunder Bay. Here's the thing is that no one is standing up for their constituents in their ridings. No one is standing up. I, for example, today, one of my customers came in because I've been encouraging everybody to call their member of parliament. And technically their member of parliament should say, what is your name? What's going on? And they got oh, well, there's nothing we can do. And I got so mad, I left with them a voice message, because I call them every 2-3 days and say, how many people have called? And they keep saying one. Well, of course, only one person has called, because you guys are not tracking the people who have called. So anyways, we need to hold our politicians accountable for the job that they've committed and promised us they would do, because we have to remember these are elected public servants. No matter how we fancy up their names, the right honorable, the honorable member of parliament, when we go down to the basics, they are elected public servants. They had a passion when they asked us to trust them and trust them with our ballots and say that I'm here to serve you and my community. That does not mean you serve us based on a moral position. You serve us based on a human position. And as a human, these are my concerns. And let me tell you, I'm going to keep getting those calls. I'm making people call from the shop so I can record them on my end and call them out.
And I think as well, the point that you made, if it actually is the case that there are politicians in ridings with maybe a majority of 20 votes, then they should be very worried if they're ignoring a sizable chunk of their constituents who have a particular position that they would like them to take seriously.
And for every one person that calls, there's 10 that are afraid to call. So one person's phone call equals 20. So they should know. I think what they're doing is it's a very, somehow we've made smoking a moral issue in Canada instead of a public health concern. Smoking and solution. And it's like, quit our way or die. And nothing is more amplified in my perspective of quit our way or die than our proposed regulations And that's called the regulatory impact analysis statement, where they pretty much said, yeah, you're going back to smoking because we say so. I mean, two of the proposed approved ingredients I heard taste like fish. Like, their goal is, and it says in there, to create e-liquids that are not pleasant or enjoyable. If there is any more reason to show that people with an addiction to smoking are being punished by the government, it's creating flavors that are not pleasurable. Why should solutions to addiction be painful? Why? Like, can someone, like, I mean, I know no one in this chat, like, I mean, we're all gonna have the same answer. But I wish the government would explain to me why I, as an adult and who has an addiction to smoking, which you're saying is not my fault, but I need to be punished in the solution.
I've never heard of this until you mentioned it now. Please don't tell me that one of the justifications is, well, it'll put the children off.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And oh my goodness, it's like you're reading Health Canada's mind. It's very sad because we are held accountable for everything. Like, if we do a bad photo, or if we do for the mistakes or the misguidedness of the way we advertised in 2015, but no one is congratulating us on the changes that we've made, the step ups, the changes, the relabeling, the maturity and growth of a new disruptive industry, like the internet. Like, when the internet first started, there was lots of bad things on the internet, but as the internet grew, and they are now congratulated for the safeties that they're adding and the changes that they do. But in this disruptive, which is the first disruptive piece of technology in the 21st century, I do believe, because we're looking, was it 2002 that OnLake brought it out, 2003?
You're the numbers guy, probably.
Yeah,
probably around about.
Sorry, yeah, I'm kind of like a fact nerd on this. But when OnLake brought it out, like, that's the first disruptive piece of technology in the 21st century. And it's scary because, like, you know, we don't see it's very hard to disrupt nowadays where we're at, but we're disrupting all the time.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, the biggest problem for me, the whole situation, not just in Canada, but on this international sort of scale, is people, especially in positions of power or positions of influence, being researchers or policymakers, can't play clueless anymore. I don't think they're not in a position where they can do that. And I don't know if you saw, there was a report, and I can't remember if it was run by or funded by Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, where they basically called for a bunch of regulations, including another flavour ban to protect the kids. And in that report, they highlighted that other countries around the world have got flavour bans, and we should do the same thing. And they pointed to the UK as an example of a place that had adopted flavour bans. But I mean, unless I slept through something, I don't think we banned flavours at any point over the last ever.
Because they're allowed to say whatever they want because they're not held accountable. Here is an example: a health promoter for one of the organ groups, one of the body part groups, a health promoter went on our national broadcaster and said with certainty that she knows that e-liquid manufacturers add a chemical into e-liquid to make it combustible. Please explain to me who the Jesus is in our industry that can turn water to fire like that. Like, it just blows my mind, but they're not held accountable to that. They're not, but you are a health promoter. You need to be sharing truths, but if you're sharing perspectives, if you're sharing fears, then you preface that, just like I did. This is my perspective on this. Like, you need to preface that, because what I'm more afraid of is the long-term ramifications. So they lied about vaping. What else are they lying about? Public health. I was talking with David Sweener, and I'm going to misquote him, but he's such a brilliant man. And I've learned, and I've been blessed to have a shop in his hometown, which is pretty cool. So I get to see him a lot, and I get to absorb the things, and he says a lot. right? There's so much information that you can absorb from him. One thing he said is that over the last few decades, the trust in public health has been wavering by community members. And that is so true. Like, kids need to go on the internet and see if vaping is safe. I mean, telling me that my lungs are different than your lungs because you live in the UK and in Canada, my lungs are different, or that science, like, it's like science changes across the pond. But I think the best one that I heard was like, my physiological makeup is different than your physiological makeup. I have no idea because my parents are immigrants to this country. And I think it takes like a long time for the DNA to kind of evolve. So, as a Canadian, my body is different than the Europeans. Like, these are some of the things that people are saying, and they're being believed by the people reporting the stories. I mean, not reporting, editorializing the stories. And that's what we have to understand. People are not reporting, they're editorializing. They're taking their position and standing on it and using their platform. And so that's what we're going to do with the tour. We have our position. Our platform happens to be Facebook and Twitter, and our website, www.rightsforvapers.com, the number 4. And we're going to use those platforms to share our perspective, our story, and we need to take back the narrative. It's like, I don't even understand how people are allowed to say who I am, or say that I need a child's allowance to make my rent. That just absolutely disgusts me when they say that about business owners.
I think the vaping community is like 55 million strong at this point globally. There's so many of us. And if even a smaller percentage of us are in a position or are given the platforms like you're providing, that we can say to policymakers and to decision makers and to people in power, this is the situation. Stop being guided by morals and be guided by the truth and by our truth and our experiences. Then there's the potential for change there. But it requires people like yourself, and obviously like Michael Landell as well, who create these sort of arenas that people can share their stories. That's what's needed at the moment. And not just for smokers, but not just for vapers, sorry. But I think smokers need to be given that information so that they can understand what is available to them, so that they can make that move. But until that happens, we're sort of in this continued public health crisis, and it's not going to stop until ideology is sort of dismissed ever so slightly, so that we can make the way for truth and make the way for evidence.
Well, I don't, you know what? We've built the platform, but we need everyone to want to speak, have the confidence. I know that everybody wants to say something. Here's the thing. I'm not even going to say that people don't want to speak up. I do believe that everyone wants to speak up and say something because it is their quality of life. I know we say vaping saves lives, but what it really does, it creates a quality of life. It creates a better quality of life. I don't want to be, and I know people say, well, you have control. No, when we look at any other addiction, we don't use the things that you made a choice. You chose to take that second hit. You chose to smoke that second cigarette. For some of us, our body told us we had no choice. And now it's very fearful that we will return to smoking. And I do know, sorry, back to what I was saying, because I go off topic all the time, if you haven't noticed. What I'm trying to say is that people all want to speak up. We want to create platforms to give them the confidence to help raise them so their voice can be there and heard, because I'm listening and other people will listen. And the more and more people we have speaking up, the more, the higher the probability of that person hearing, their ears perking up, and then them saying. So again, your voice matters. Everybody's voice matters. Just because I'm like on here and I'm like, blah, 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 and I talk like this and with my hands, and I get like right into these conversations, doesn't mean I do a better job telling your story. No one will do a better job telling your own story. And I am willing and ready and able. I want to hear it. I can't tell it for you. I can build the platforms that I have. I can't make your ideas happen, but I will cheer you on. I will cheer you on. I will not stop you from doing that.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things that you can do, and sort of Rights for Vapers can do, and other organizations out there around the world can do, is to empower people to have the confidence to tell their own stories in their own words. And if that happens and that gains momentum, I think it is that will start to change the minds of politicians and regulators, because you can't not do that.
No, absolutely. And I think the ball is starting to roll down the street. It's like, you know, the snowball effect. Oh my God, I'm so hot today in this town. We're in a heat wave. So the fact of me saying a snowball is getting me excited, because I feel like doing snow angels in the snow to cool down right now. But the snowball effect.
We do, don't you, occasionally?
Pardon?
You do occasionally get off track. Yes, I've noticed now.
I know, I just started talking about snow angels.
Right. I'm talking about getting off track. I've lost track of time, but we're going to keep going for a while because we can. I've got a question for you. Okay. You know, we earlier before we came on.
Oh yeah.
Shall I ask Maria the question?
Do you think she's ready for the question?
I don't know, but shall we try?
It's worth giving it a go.
Will she get angry if I ask her this question, do you think?
There's potential.
All right.
Certainly.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Well, I've got a question for you if you're ready. Are you up for a question?
I'm ready.
I've got a question written down as well. I actually wrote
Okay.
This is the question. I'm going to read it. So here's my question for you, and it's a genuine question. You may have heard it before. I don't know. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you could tell Health Canada one thing about vape flavors and why they matter, what would you say?
Oh my God, can I just say something first? I have had the opportunity to tell Health Canada why flavorings matters, because I sent them an email in December of 2018 asking to meet with them anytime between January 1st and December 31st of 2019. I tried to book an appointment with them. So I got that opportunity, because when you give them 365 days, they have to take you up on one of those days. But I did say to them, why flavors are important, because it's my body, it's my choice. We need to make addiction and solutions to addictions easier, more attainable, so we can have a healthier Canada.
That makes sense. And the other thing that leads on to is that, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are actually giving everybody the chance to answer that question as well.
Yes.
Their own point of view.
Yes. It's on saveflavors.ca.
Saveflavors.ca.
Yep. And you can go in there. There's two options. We're going to tell everybody do the recommended option. It's a guided submissions process. You will be asked questions. You fill out the answers, and at the end, it will create a submission to Health Canada to tell them how you feel about the flavor ban. This is your opportunity to share about your first cigarette, of how empowered you felt when you were able to get rid of that last cigarette, how important flavors are to you. And it is in your voice. It is unique, because Health Canada has a history of removing our voices and the voice of vapors, because they say it's a canned email. Guys, it takes 10 minutes. 10 to 30 minutes. It depends how many words you want to use. It's your story. You need to you owe yourself that time to share your story with the people who are telling you what to do with your body, are telling you what you're doing is wrong. You have that right. Give yourself 30 minutes. September 1st, well, September 2nd is the deadline. You have to do it. If you send it on September 2nd, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's okay. If you send it at 12:01 a.m., it's not okay on September 3rd. So let's get those submissions in.
I couldn't agree more. One thing that you should pay attention to, Maria just said there about sort of getting their stories written. She's saying it takes about 10 to 30 minutes. I wish I could get you to write a story in 10 to 30 minutes. That would be amazing.
I can give you high quality, or I can give you quantity.
Okay, that's fair.
I say it's answering questions, and it's much easier to share your story than it is to write a story about someone else.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Well, maybe there's
I'm defending 5-0 over there.
I'm happy
let's hope for 5-0. You know what I've forgotten, don't you? I've forgotten the questions coming in.
There are.
We're out of time, so we'll see how many we can get through these really quickly.
Yeah.
What does this one mean? Why do you, that means you, not me, think Canadian policymakers changed their tune about vaping and are now pursuing regulations that could damage public health? We've done that.
Yeah, I just think the noise got higher. It's for the kids.
Yeah. What originally inspired you to get involved in advocacy? We've done that one as well. You told us. So that's great. Hang on, I've lost what happened there. How much of an impact do you? Stop moving, chat. How much of an impact do you feel marketing bans has on the industry? Should governments and social media companies do more to help vape companies help smokers quit? Probably.
Here's the thing. I think the biggest damage is Health Canada has tied our hands from making health claims, even though they promised to give us a list of relative risk statements that we were allowed to use in marketing. That is the only set of regulations that they've lagged and dragged their heels on. And it is disappointing. It's hard to reach smokers.
Yeah,
it's hard to reach smokers in our country. Thankfully, you know what? When someone wants to quit smoking, they'll do their own research and they come and find the places. We're still converting.
Better it would be if you in Canada and us over here could actually help them along the way to do that.
I mean, imagine if a hospital had a vape shop in Canada.
Yeah, well, I mean, thankfully we're doing that. Wouldn't that be brilliant?
That would be brilliant.
Another question, quick question. Is Trudeau, that's your president, I guess, or whatever, is he Prime Minister? Is he pro or anti-vaping or neither?
I don't think he's ever come out with it, but based on his directive to the Minister of Health, I think he is anti-youth vaping, and that is his focus. His focus is not on smokers.
Yeah, okay. A lot of politicians sort of fit into that.
Yeah.
Box. Do you think it is still possible for Canada to revert back to its evidence-based pro-vaping approach? Hopefully.
I do believe that common sense. I do believe that all this fear mongering, I do believe that we will break through. I do believe that but the only way that's going to happen, it's not going to happen through movements or organizations. It's going to happen through consumers and people who use vaping products and using their voices and telling their stories. Okay,
yeah, I agree, because if it wasn't, then it's just the outlook is so sad if it's not the case. Hopefully people can see reason. Hopefully also Raphael, the producer of this particular segment, is not going to be too angry with me because I've gone slightly over time. Do you think he'd let us have a few more questions? I think he probably would.
Yeah, I have a hard stop at 1.
Hard stop at 1? Oh, that's in some...
We've got 7 minutes, so we're good. We're going to answer all these questions.
Probably a little less than that because we have to do it a little bit early, but let's do. How do you against bad policies? Do you mainly focus on educating policymakers, social media campaigns, open letters, petitions, or a healthy mix of everything?
A healthy mix of everything.
We've had a healthy mix of everything here. Dan says, flavors play such a crucial role for myself and other vapers in the UK. Could the same be said for Canadian vapers? Well, yeah.
Absolutely. Even Health Canada said flavors play an important role, but that's okay. We're going to save like 5 kids. Yeah. I'm paraphrasing, and we're going to get rid of flavors, and it's okay for everybody to go back to smoking. We're going to get our tobacco money.
Apart from the fish flavors, don't forget those. Yeah. How can consumers help the fight against bad policies, both on a local and international scale? Do what we do in this.
Yeah, speak up, share your story. Don't be afraid. Do not let someone else tell your story for you. You speak up, it's yours, and you need to be proud of every single moment of it.
That's a good answer. Yeah, do that, people. How can Health Canada get away with acknowledging their proposed regulations will push people back to much, much more harmful cigarettes? How can they get away with it?
They're not getting away with it. That's why we're holding them to task. We are getting loud. We are not going to allow them to get away with this. At the end of the day, we do have a Charter of Rights and Freedom, but constitutional challenges are expensive. They're timely. People will die from tobacco-related illnesses that wouldn't have had those illnesses if we don't fight now. Court cases and all that, that's a last case scenario because those move at snail paces, especially when you're dealing with a charter, because that affects all Canadians. We need to get the message out now, and things like this tour are what's going to try and hold them accountable to the mistake.
I think that's a good place to end it. Basically, if we cannot change things, people are going to die needlessly, and that can't be allowed. We can't allow that to happen. Maria, thank you very, very much for.
Thank you, everybody.
Hope you come back again and at some point and keep us informed on things. I shall be following you on social media. Good luck with all the campaigns that you're doing, and hopefully at some point we can meet up live somewhere in the world and see what's happening.
Well, if you want, we're booking on for the tour. You can jump in on our tour at one of our stops. We're doing live things, so you never know. We'll talk off camera. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you guys are doing, for your voices, for the stories that you're sharing. They make an impact. Thank you
So much. Bye-bye. Take care.